Something else I wanted to go back to that I thought was very useful was the book by Thomas Paine. And I wasn't sure whether he wrote it in the 70s or early 1800s, called The Age of Reason. Now, he wrote Common Sense in 1776, which was a great year, of course. And he was an English man. I was going to say Englander, but he was born there in England, but he chose to become an American. And I think a lot of you might understand that that might mean a lot more than just being born there by happenstance, because it's not a choice then. Whereas if you choose to not only stand with certain principles because you were born in a certain country, but if you go there because you agree so much with the idea of freedom, the idea of being your own man, and deciding to be the best person you can be, to live in accordance with principles that you've decided are the highest ones that mankind could aspire to live with or live by, then that means a lot more than somebody who just happened to be born somewhere and doesn't even really know anything about what its country or nation is supposed to be about. So that's kind of similar, though, in so he was criticizing Britain, and why should a nation have authority over a man or an empire? That's a similar idea and theme then to his book, The Age of Reason, which I mentioned in a previous very long video, which I've taken down because it was just too rambly. And I just wanted to stick to this one point about Thomas Paine. So perhaps Common Sense is a good book to read as well, but The Age of Reason he wrote, perhaps like some other great books, in prison in the 1790s, or most of it anyway, between I think 1792 and 94. And it is critical of the church, I guess not only the Catholic Church, but whatever denominations of Protestant churches as well, because, and I think a lot of you will know this, of course, but when you criticize the church, people think you're criticizing God. People conflate atheism with a rejection of the authority of the church. And people used to always say church and state together, as though they were the twin pillars of basically holding authority over the people. They worked together, and I guess still do, to subjugate the minds of the people. And they probably, if they think they're doing good, they think it's for the people's own good, that people can't be trusted to look after themselves or to do the right thing. And so I think that's why the institutions of religion need to be criticized, because all men, all women are imperfect and can become corrupt, and then they use institutions to hide their corruption, and they have a lot of vested interest then to be unwilling to allow too much inspection of their institutions, because then they might find that inside the walls of these buildings there are men and women who don't really behave themselves very well, but they hope that the facade of the structure they're hiding in will look so impressive to people on the outside that they'll still behave themselves and they can get on with whatever they want to do. But that's not good enough, you see. They need to set an example that they require others to live up to. And so it's no good all of these people saying, oh, well, it doesn't matter what I do in private as long as the public doesn't find out about it, whether it's kings and queens or monks and nuns and priests. They've all got to uphold their end of the bargain. If everybody starts doing whatever they want or whatever they think they want, then everything's going to fall apart, as we see. So it's very correct for each man and each woman to say to himself or herself, okay, instead of being told by either government or an institution of a religion what I need to do to be a good person or what I need to avoid doing so as to not be a bad person, instead of just being told what is good or bad, everybody needs to decide for themselves. That's what being an adult is. And of course, all these institutions don't want that, because if they're good, they think, no, that's only going to create chaos. And then maybe they all said, well, let chaos occur, and then we'll just tighten our grip around everything even more after that, when people realize how terrible it is when you have billions of different voices saying, no, we must row the boat this way. And then somebody else saying, well, I think we should row the boat this way. And somebody else saying, well, I'm actually much more adamant in my belief, therefore we're going to row this way, and so on. And then somebody authoritative steps in and says, well, you thought you didn't need us, you need us again, Anyway, the Age of Reason is about the conflation of religion and deism, and how the two shouldn't be confused. And in plain English, here's how to separate them and decide for yourself what's right or wrong. So we're in chaos now. And so I think that it's imperative that each one of us then spends the time to examine what is right or wrong. Let me decide for myself then. Because if we're not getting any direction from the old institutions of religion, and if we know that government is just self-serving, well then we have to decide for ourselves. So let's look back into the wisdom of the past. It doesn't matter what labels this guy had. It doesn't matter whether he was close to the founding fathers. It doesn't matter whether he was a member of institutions that have names, creepy names or spooky names or occultist names. With 200 years that go by, if the meaning of words change, the meanings of institutions change, because the people that were in them then aren't the people that are in them now. And they'll obviously be using whatever institutions or labels they are to further whatever they think their own ends are. Okay, I said I didn't want this to go on too long. I'll leave some links and we can discuss it more if anybody's interested. Get a little book club going. What do we think about the common sense and easily understood wisdom, easily understandable wisdom that is in the Age of Reason as well? So these men of old, they wanted people to understand. It was considered vulgar English, but the meaning of that word vulgar didn't mean that it was gross or insulting, although the churches and the governments did think it was to them. But it means that it could be understood by the common man, the people in the street. And it was the man in the street, the common man on the London bus, that every courtroom used to say, well, look, if we want to get a gauge mark, a benchmark on what it should mean to be an average man with common sense, you have to go to the common man on the Clapham omnibus, they used to say, to remind ourselves of what is right, or what a sensible person would think or do. Sadly, if you do that anymore on public transport, you're not likely to find somebody who's speaking very coherently or sensibly or is the voice of reason anymore. So we have to go back into the past to rediscover that. I'll leave a link to the archive site where you can download the book in PDF or EPUB or whatever format. I found a link to where there's a audiobook version of it, but the sound quality seems a bit bad, but I'll leave a link to it just in case. That's it for now.